Okay, today I'm playing flugelhorn again. I checked out this one, number 16 in Charlie Porter's Lyrical Etudes. It's in B minor. And it says, con moto espressivo e nostalgico. Nostalgic. Thinking back, memories. Well, how can I convey that with the music and not get lost in the technical stuff? Well, I'll do my best for you. I'm just going to play it through. I just picked this horn up. It's a little cold. So if the pitch changes, give me a break. I'll do what I can. That's kind of an intriguing one. Wow, I really kind of got lost in the flugel sound. It's very beguiling. So, what are some things to notice about this one? They're big gestures, and you see them. You see these patterns. If you even looked at just visually, and you took a pencil and you just connected the dots. And then you saw that line of the pencil through the dots, and the dots disappear, and all you see is the line. That's a great way to visualize, literally visualize the music. So the natural thing that happens with music, and of course there are exceptions to the rule, but as the music ascends in pitch, it tends to become more dramatic. As it descends, it tends to become less so. Of course, that rule gets broken on a regular basis, but the natural thing that happens when we're singing, for example, is that the voice becomes stronger in its character as you go higher, until you get to the point where you're squeezing in your throat. So, what can you gain from doing this? For me, this is about the gesture that I just talked about, and the character change that goes with the implied harmony that you're hearing. So it's in B minor. So I just play the three minor scales, melodic, pure, and harmonic minor. And it's always nice to, when you put it in a scale, or you play the chord, you go over the piano and you play it on the keyboard, it makes it so much more interesting, because then you're hearing, it's like the environment for the melody that you're playing. A lot of people I notice, a lot of my students are playing the individual notes, but they're not hearing the environment. They're not aware of what's around them in the space. And a lot of that space is taken up with the harmony that's implied by the melody. And I think you can hear it, as I hope you can hear it as I'm playing. I'm certainly trying to hear it. Now, you get dynamic changes and specific things written in poco accelerando, ritardando, and then that funny prestissimo at the end, which is really whimsical, I think would be a good word for it. I love these because they're short, and so you can really dwell on how successful you're being with the musical content. Now, I'll be honest with you. It may be obvious I don't know this one very well. I kind of flubbed up a couple of notes, I think, as is pretty typical for me. But I'm still going for the music, and if I get to know it better and memorize it eventually, and I play it a number of times, especially performative number of times, and a way to substitute for this when you're working on it is record it as a performance, or record it as if you're going to submit it to a competition. And this is the only piece on the competition. And thousands of trumpet players from all over the world are submitting this tune for a competition. Now, that doesn't work very well for me, but it may work for some of you. The whole idea is like, wow, how can I make this better? I mean, a lot of other people are going to play it. They're going to play it differently than I am, but how can I make it stand out? Well, I'm going to suggest to you that being true to the music, as I've said many times, in other words, trying to hear what it means to you, and then saying that as clearly, intentionally, and genuinely as you can is what works. Most trumpet players are just trying to figure out how to play the notes and sound halfway decent, because it's a challenging instrument to play. But if we're past that point, and I hope that some of you, when you're listening to these etudes, are past that point, how can you make it more interesting? So I think I mentioned in the last etude that I did of Charlie's, which for me was just a couple of minutes ago, that it's there's this feeling of musical. You're trying to touch the musical expression, but there are a lot of things that get in the way of that. So what I do is play it without expression to start, and then I'm just dealing with, can I sustain the sound? Then I might include one more level, like, can I play the beginning forte? So it says forte. Now, it's not the volume, it's the attitude. Now, if I play that on trumpet, I got my C here, I'm going to transpose it. So it has a different character just because it's a different instrument with a different quality of sound. But you hear how the gestures were very, very similar. This can be a lot of fun. But to me, the real satisfaction, the real enjoyment is in the flavor of the music, if you will. Everything then works from that. That's the way I function. So when I get excited when I hear the character and the spirit and the drama, the expression that comes through, the emotion that comes through the music. So then I try and translate that. So I'm going to make a suggestion to you. If you were a great chef and you knew there was another great chef in your area, you would on occasion probably go to that chef's restaurant and you would partake of the food that they prepare. But your attitude in going there might be a little bit different than the average customer who's simply going to, appreciate and enjoy a good meal. As a chef, you're going to taste and learn. You're actually, in a sense, as Mark Gould is fond of saying, you're actually trying to steal the recipe. So, using that metaphor, think as you listen to me play this, or any player, if you listen to Charlie's recordings of playing this, or you listen to any musician playing at a very high level where the expression, you forget that they're playing the violin. You forget that they're singing. You forget that they're playing an oboe, for example. It's not about that anymore. You forget, you don't notice the mistakes because you're hearing the music. It carries you away. That's the pinnacle that you're aiming for. So how do you do that? Well, I'll spend just a couple of minutes and then let you go practice. If I play it with non espressione, in other words, I'm going to not do anything with the time. And this is hard for me to do because I've been hearing it in my musical imagination with a lot of energy. So I'm going to play it with no volume change, no expression in the time. Let me do that again. Sorry, I don't see too well anymore, so I'm really struggling here. Now, with the flugelhorn, the sound itself can be so beguiling, so enjoyable, that you don't really notice that there's not a whole lot happening with the expression. I'm going to play it on the trumpet, and And actually, I'm going to play it now. I'm going to jar your ear a little bit. I'm going to play it where it's written on the C trumpet, and try and do the same thing. What I'm suggesting is that's not a bad way to practice. It annoys the heck out of me. I really don't like doing that, and it's hard for me to do. You can tell I'm struggling a little bit with the quality of my playing because I'm doing everything kind of literally and straight and with no expression. That's hard. But it's a great discipline because then you can hear, especially if you record yourself. I suppose I'll listen to this before I post it to you guys. Is that really even? As soon as you start to change range, either going out of the middle register higher or lower in the range, you may have difficulty keeping the quality of the sound even. You may have difficulty controlling the dynamic level or playing the notes in tune. So it's really good to have that kind of basic structure before you go messing around. It's very typical of people playing etudes, especially very expressive ones like these. I hear people playing Charlier, and I'll probably do some of the Charlier etudes for you at some point because they're so popular. And I hear them doing all this kind of soupy, pseudo-expressive timing things, but it doesn't make any sense. It's like they're doing it because they heard, oh, you're supposed to go a little faster, you're supposed to slow down, you're supposed to take time. But it has to make some kind of musical sense. And so what I'm suggesting is, don't worry about that. Just play it with a beautiful sound that's even. Try and play the line. If you want to play the music, play the line for sure. But don't worry about the timing expression or the dynamic expression at first. I actually try and take these apart and work on each of the expressive modes, like dynamics or articulation or timing, color of the sound, etc., as a single thing all by itself. Then it starts to make sense. That's like the chef tasting the ingredients, tasting the methods that were used to prepare the food. The caramelization of the onions, or the fact that something was cooked for a very long time at a slow temperature. An experienced chef will recognize these flavors, the results, the expressive results of those techniques. That's what you want to be doing when you are listening to great musicians play. And that way, when your sensitivity to those qualities gets higher, then you're going to be able to play at that level. It will become part of your own expression. So I know this is a little bit of a harangue on musicality, but that's really why we're doing this. That's why I'm doing it, and I hope you feel the same way. If you do, come back and join me later and check out the other things on my channel. This is a fun thing to do. We should be grateful that we have a chance to do it. I hope you agree. I'll see you later on. Bye-bye.